It's happening, gang. It's really, really happening. This election is running away from Kamala, and the legacy media is admitting it. The legacy media itself is showing signs of cracking, all as the Kamala campaign appears to be absolutely unraveling from within. I'm going to show you everything that's happening 11 days out from the election and why we truly are on the cusp of what may indeed be one of the most epic blowouts ever. Greetings, everyone. It is I, Dr. Steve, on another Livestream Friday. I am your patron professor here to help you stay sane in these ridiculously insane times. So whatever you do, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe subscribe button and share this video far and wide. Make sure you do subscribe. You do not want to miss a single video where it's my pledge to give you the absolute best in election coverage leading up to November. We've got a jam-packed show for you today. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. Also, just a quick reminder, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube, unfortunately, has suspended our super chats, they've completely demonetized us, just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any one of our levels of support, whatever works for you, and you have instant access to our very own virtual platform. It is a censorship-free virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any level of support that you like. Ask me all your questions that you want, and it'll be my honor to answer them right here on this live stream. We are officially now just 11 days from the big day, and I want to begin with a brief cautionary note. If we learned anything from 2020, it's that literally anything can happen. We all live under a rotten and corrupt regime made up of both political parties that exist for one reason and one reason only: to maintain and expand their own power and affluence at our expense. This regime, this globalist regime, we now know will stop at nothing to protect and defend its own interests and to fortify its international dominance and control. We saw it on display in November 2020. We saw this regime and what it's willing to do on display again on January 6th and thereafter. We saw it in the unprecedented raid of a former president's home. We saw it in four indictments that charged a former president with dozens of felonies. We saw it in what was supposed to be the humiliation of a mugshot taken of him by a corrupt legal system in Fulton County, Georgia, to their everlasting shame. We saw it in the absurdly vile, venomous, vengeful convictions by a rabidly left-wing, frothing at the mouth Manhattan jury. And on July 13th, in Butler, Pennsylvania, we even saw it in what would have been its most sinister, history-altering form. The challenges before us are great. As King George VI said in his immortal King's Speech, we have been called to meet the challenge of a principle which, if it were to prevail, would be fatal to any civilized order in the world. We have been called to meet the challenge of a principle, if it were to prevail, would be fatal to any civilized order in the world. But then he said, and it is unthinkable that we should refuse to meet such a challenge. And so I want to caution all of us today, 11 days out. I want to caution all of us, this is not yet over. Anything can happen in these next 11 days. But the fact that anything can happen does not translate into it will happen. And here's the key. It does not translate into it will happen the way they planned. The raid on Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago did not happen as they planned. The indictments did not happen as they planned. The mugshot did not happen as they planned. The New York convictions did not happen as they planned. And J13, by the grace of Almighty God, did not happen as they planned. My dear friends, it's up to us, every single one of us, to do everything we absolutely can to make sure that no matter what they have planned for November 5th, it does not happen as they planned. And the glorious news is that that is exactly what appears to be happening. As we speak, this election is running away from them. That's exactly what our good friend Rich Baris over at the People's Pundit is saying. God bless Rich, gang. He's been so amazing. His analysis has been so spot on all throughout the past year. I mean, it's always spot on, but particularly this year leading up to November. So, I mean, Rich has been such an invaluable resource to this channel. I know he has been as well to everyone out there. If you're not subscribed to Rich's channel or his Twitter feed, you got to go do that. Do that now as you're listening to this. But Rich said it beautifully today. Just this tweet just went up. Everything could be wrong. Yeah, it's true. Everything could be wrong. All the data we have coming in could all be wrong. The vast majority of the polls may be off. The voter registration trends may indeed be inconsequential. The early voting may indeed be anomaly. Yep, everything we're seeing thus far could be wrong. But if not, it looks like she's about to get crushed. If not, this is running away from Harris. If all the data out there right now is not wrong, then this is most definitely not happening as they planned. Mark Halper, informally of MSNBC, is saying the quiet part out loud. He was talking with Megyn Kelly yesterday, talking about Joe Biden's trip to New Hampshire. Take a look at what he had to say.
Harris, a few weeks ago, did an event in New Hampshire. I said to everybody in both parties, like, what's going on? Because she's spending a day campaigning in New Hampshire. They said, oh, no, she's got a fundraiser in Boston. She's given a national speech. It's got nothing to do with being worried about New Hampshire. And in fact, the private data in New Hampshire shows her with a pretty substantial lead. Joe Biden back in New Hampshire yesterday. And so there's a school of thought. I'm not predicting Trump will win a landslide. I'm not rooting for Trump winning a landslide. But there's a school of thought that says Trump's going to go to Albuquerque to try to win New Mexico. He's going to go to St. Paul to try to win Minnesota. He's going to go to, I don't know, Richmond to try to win Virginia. And then he's going to go to New Hampshire. And I was told yesterday, someone showed me an email saying that the Trump campaign is doing last minute hiring, paying a pretty robust sum for folks to do door knocking at the last minute.
This is the reason the Democrats are campaigning in New Hampshire. Take a look at this. This is the latest Emerson poll to drop, just dropped yesterday, the 24th. Polling October 21st, 23rd. Emerson tends to skew left like they all do. And it's basically within the margin of error. New Hampshire, which hasn't voted for a Republican in decades, is in the margin of error. And of course, it's not just New Hampshire. It's Virginia. I'm sure you've all been following the early voting in Virginia. Republicans are crushing it. They're now in a better position than they were back in 2021 when Glenn Youngkin went on to win the state. Now, again, another cautionary note. Gubernatorial elections are not predictive of presidential elections. That's essential to understand. Gubernatorial elections are not predictive of presidential elections. Just ask Ron DeSantis. just ask Chris Christie if you can get a word with him in between bites. Just ask Mitt Romney. Now, that said, it is true that Virginia is closer than anything any Democrat establishment member would have ever imagined in their worst nightmares. This is not going according to plan. And we could go on and on. Trump is seeing red everywhere. He's seeing record support in Jersey, seeing record support in New York. Kamala's margins are half of what Biden was getting at the time in 2020, particularly in New York. Speaking of New York, this came out today. Throw this out. How do you like that cover? That's from the New York Post. They have officially endorsed Trump. Murdoch's New York Post has just endorsed Trump. And I love the cover. Back to the Future. They said the clear choice, the only viable option to put the nation back on the right path is, of course, the one and only Donald J. Trump. So fire up the old DeLorean. We're going back to the future as far as New York Post is concerned. That must have hurt, that headline, at least at the executive level, the Rupert Murdoch level. The Murdoch family hates Trump. They absolutely despise Trump. Half of them are all left-wing nuts anyway, but they know who their readers are, they're overwhelmingly pro-Trump, and they're seeing the collapse of Kamala. Seems rather obvious. So for the very survival of the paper, they had no choice. They had to endorse Trump. Now, this endorsement comes on the heels of the very opposite. The announcement that the LA Times, which has endorsed every Democrat presidential candidate in the last few decades, they've come out and refused to endorse Kamala. They'll say, of course, well, we're not going to endorse anyone. No, think about it. Let that hit you. Why would you not endorse anyone? Just like the Teamsters Union. Why would you not endorse anyone? What makes this election so sui generis, so unique, that you're going to buck precedent and not endorse anyone? The subtle message is we're not endorsing the Democrat nominee because she's a disaster. So the LA Times is joining up with the Teamsters Union and refusing to do the expected ritual of every single presidential election season, and that's for establishment outlets to endorse establishment candidates. And they're not. And they're not alone. The Washington Post, Jeff Bezos' propaganda rag, they're refusing to endorse Kamala. There's reportedly a bit of a civil war going on inside the far-left outlet Washington Post, with the staff in the newsrooms demanding that the paper endorse Cackles Kamala because they're made up of the most miserable people on the planet. But the executives there appear, following Bezos, appear to want to hedge their bets, given that they think Trump is going to win, and they don't want to be on his bad side when he does. And now on top of that, we've got the latest New York Times poll. I believe this is their last poll that they're dropping before the election. This is going to absolutely blow you away. But first, gang, unfortunately, natural disasters are the new reality, from the Maui fires to record level hurricanes. We're seeing catastrophic disasters just take out entire towns in 24 hours with minimal warning, resulting in lack of basic resources. And I get it. You know, we're all wired to think it's never going to happen here. It's never going to happen to me. Well, they said it too. And in a blink, you're in survival mode. Being prepared in advance is your best defense against the unexpected. And clearly, we can't rely on our government. The wellness company's emergency kits completely remove the gatekeeper and subside panic by providing you with a personalized mini pharmacy in the convenience of your own home. Bacterial infections, staph, bite wounds, UTI, strep throat, respiratory illnesses. You no longer have to be at the mercy of someone else to help you. You keep a fire extinguisher handy in case of a fire, right? It's probably a good idea to have some basic meds in a safe place in the event you need them. Same mindset, different product. Getting an emergency kit is fully digital, all from the convenience of your own couch. All you're going to do is you're going to fill out an intake form. A pharmacist reviews and approves it. Then you receive the kits in 2 weeks. The medical board approved guidebook crafted by Dr. Peter McCullough tells you exactly what to do. This is preparedness simplified. Invest in your family's self-managed insurance plan. Click on that link below or go to twc.health/Turley. Use code Turley and save up to 60% off and get free shipping at checkout. That's twc.health/Turley. All right, gang, the New York Times, the biggest cheerleader of them all for Cackles Kamala, has just dropped, I believe this is their last poll for 2024. And after all their efforts at trying to give Kamala a double-digit lead, it's a tie. Talk about hedging your bets. It's a tie. Trump, Harris, 48 apiece. When in a full field, it's Trump +1. Remember, you have a bunch of far-left activists. You got Stein, you got Oliver, you got these far left-wing nuts all on these. I think Oliver's a left-wing nut. Personally, I know he's libertarian, but I mean, my heavens. In a full field, it's Trump +1. Now, keep in mind, their last poll a couple of weeks back was Harris +3. So obviously, this is a falling average here. That's what we've been seeing in all the polling. That's the last thing you want to happen. It's the last thing you want to have happen to you just 11 days before an election. Just ask Hillary. You do not want to get caught up in a tailspin just 11 days out from an election. And for Hillary, it didn't happen to like 4 or 5 days before. Now, to put this in context, just so you know, well, again, I love context. Just so you know how brutal this is. The New York Times final poll for 2020 had Biden up +9. It was Biden +9. And their final poll for 2016, this is the one I found in October. It was Hillary +12. They had to have shrunk that margin. There was no way they could hold on to their A+ rating with Hillary plus being off that bad. So however you score it, gang, this tie is beyond anything the far left activists at the New York Times ever imagined for 2025. It's not going according to plan. And speaking of ties, take a look at this. From the RCP Aggregate. Remember, this is the Real Clear Politics. I spell it out because I always get questions from people who are just joining the channel. You know, what do you get? You keep talking about this RCP Aggregate. Real Clear Politics polling average, right? So Real Clear Politics, RCP, they average out, they aggregate all the polls, the good, the bad, the ugly. Take a look. Remember, it was Kamala plus 2 something not too long ago, just a few weeks ago. Take a look. Look at the top where it says, where the yellow thingy there. They're now officially tied. Kamala has completely and totally blown her lead. She's been leading in the RCP aggregate now ever since all those fabricated puff polls put her over the top in her Joy, Joy, Joy campaign in August. And again, I'll remind you that back then, I told you, remember, like I said yesterday, what like the great Rush the Great used to say, don't you doubt me. Don't you doubt me. I told you, don't buy it. Don't buy it for a single second. She's not even remotely this popular. This is all fabricated. Remember, the purpose of puff polls is to fund and fabricate. The purpose of the puff polls is to fund and fabricate. It's to raise money for Democrats and manipulate public opinion. Fund and fabricate. They were all response bias polls that would, I told you, they would eventually have to come back to earth eventually if the polling outlets wanted to maintain their credibility. And they would do that right before, just a couple of weeks before the election. And here we are. Kamala's come crashing back down to earth. And it ain't pretty. Again, just to put it in context, at this time in 2020, Biden on the Real Clear Politics average was up by freaking 8. In 2016, Hillary was up by 5. And then keep in mind, Biden went on to, quote, win by 40,000 votes. And Hillary, of course, went down in much deserved flames. Kamala is indeed on track to be the first Democrat since John Kerry to lose the popular vote. But again, this is exactly what Mark Halper was just saying. This explains why Trump was campaigning recently in California and Colorado. It goes way beyond winning down ticket races. He's going for it. He's going for the popular vote. He's going to Madison Square Garden this weekend in New York. Again, you heard Halper, and Trump's holding rallies in New Hampshire. He's holding rallies in New Mexico. He's holding rallies in Minnesota. And of course, Virginia. By the way, you want to just get pumped? You want to get totally excited for the weekend? Have you seen the latest numbers coming out of Miami-Dade? Miami, gang. Miami-Dade County, Florida. Florida right now, just as a whole, is an early voting apocalypse for the Democrats right now. I mean, we've never seen anything quite like this. I can keep in mind, gang, just 4 years ago, Florida was a swing state. Florida was a freaking swing state. Again, Rich Baris is saying this is probably the first time we're going to see Florida vote to the right of Texas. It's insane, the political realignment that's happening. Trump's going to win Florida by double digits, it looks like. At this point, 10, 11 points. I mean, it's insane. But all you have to do to see how dominant Trump is right now is take a look at Miami-Dade. Look at that, gang. Republican early voting is up by 17.3 points in Miami-Dade. Now, if you don't realize how beyond comprehension that is, here, let me hit you with a little fun fact here, right? You want to know how Miami-Dade voted in 2016? Last time Trump was rocking and rolling in the, he wasn't even rocking and rolling in the polls like this. This is unprecedented. But the last time we were starting to see some momentum kind of even on par with this, 2016, Miami-Dade voted for Hillary. If I recall, I hope I'm right. Check it out. Fact check me by all means. Miami-Dade voted for Hillary by 30 points. 30 points. Miami-Dade is a microcosm of the mass political realignment that's been happening in our nation that this channel has been talking about for these last 8 years. There is a nationalist, populist, political realignment that's happening, not just here, but all over the world. That's what my book is all about. Fight. Make sure to go to Go to Amazon and grab your copy. My book, Fight, is all about how Trump and the MAGA movement are changing the world. It's a political realignment that's been going on now actually for a couple of decades, and it's finally reaching critical mass. And Miami-Dade is on the forefront of it. They've gone from voting for Hillary by a margin of 30 points to now voting for Trump by a margin of nearly 20. That's the case. We're seeing a 50-point swing. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That's the election in a nutshell. And by the way, no Republican has ever won Miami-Dade and then gone on to lose the presidential election. And so it is, it's no wonder that now even the liberal legacy media outlets are starting to point fingers at each other and throw each other under the bus. I've got the latest. I've got the clips. Gang, seriously, let's take a moment, go get the butter your popcorn, and wait till you watch this. But first, if you are just joining us, remember, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has unfortunately suspended our super chats, we've been completely demonetized by YouTube. Just click on that link below, join any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our own virtual platform. It's a censorship-free virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Also, I've come across something that's really, seriously, it's revolutionized my life. And I want to share this with you. It's called Beam Dream, and it's completely changed the way I sleep. I sip a nice hot cup of Beam Dream, and I kid you not, I'm out like a light. And I have the most restful sleep ever all throughout the night. It's become like a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning, so I feel refreshed, ready to take on the day. And they're offering Turley Talks listeners an exclusive discount of up to 35% off. And I believe they even have 50% off site-wide. So just click on that QR code on the screen or use the link below to get the best night's sleep you've had in years and propel your wellness journey to the next stage. Click that QR code or go to shopbeam.com/Turley Talks. That's shopbeam.com/Turley Talks. Use my promo code and get your awesome discount. All right, gang. I love it. I do. I love it. I do not sleep well. I never did. Even as a kid, I never slept well. I always had a hard time. I always woke up early and I always went to bed. I always had a hard time sleeping. I wonder if Trump's like that. He barely sleeps, but I just can't shut my brain off. And I'm just going over things and I can't sleep. And I do Beam Dream. I'm not kidding you. I do it. I do Beam Dream. I sip. It's a nice hot. There's a chocolate flavor I do. I sip it at night as I'm just sitting back reading or watching a little TV. I am out within 40 minutes. I'm gone. It's great. You'll love it. All right. The ultra woke leftist over at MSNBC. Mika. Oh, poor Mika. What are we going to do with Mika? I don't know. Mika's good. I hope she has good insurance because she's going to need some serious medication after November 5th. But all the ultra leftists over at MSNBC are having an absolute meltdown. Roll the tape.
Cozying up to dictators, his obsession with Hitler that has now come out, what he has said about our veterans, and what he wants to do with the military against his political adversaries. It's all huge news. This is the future that we're looking at in the next Trump term, if there is one. But this is what voters know right now, that he is killing us. I'm talking about us women. He's killing us. He is putting us at risk. He is making us afraid to have babies. He is putting our reproductive health at risk, and some women have died already because of this. So we can see right now what's coming. These headlines, and very good reporting, by the way, that shouldn't be questioned by idiots about what Trump has said about Hitler. That's incredibly important to know. But I do understand that people who are busy and that are people who are just tapping in may not be able to comprehend because we've been free. We've been comfortable. We cannot comprehend that. And I understand that. I validate that it is hard to go from here to there. It is where we're going. I hope we don't find out the hard way. But what's happening with women right now is real, and it is playing out across America.
I'm sorry. I know it's wrong to laugh at the mentally ill. I know, but I mean, she does not look good. Do you notice under her eyes? It looks like she was up all night crying. She's on the verge of freaking tears right there. I mean, that's all you need to know. This is not going as they planned. They are literally choking tears back on live television. Keep in mind, do you want to know the real reason why she's having a meltdown like that? I want to take you back just a few years back. This is the same Mika Brzezinski who once said this. Roll the tape.
Is what I hear from all the Trump supporters that I talk to who were Trump voters and are still Trump supporters. They go, yeah, you guys are going crazy. He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, if you look at the...
She's... Mika, you're giving blondes a bad name. Fortunately, my hair has gotten dark. I used to be really, really blonde as a kid. It's just getting darker as I get old. Oh, you heard her yourself. You heard it. Well, we ain't inventing any facts. We idiots over here ain't inventing any facts. You heard exactly what she just said. What did she just say? She just said that it is our job, the legacy media's job, to control what you think. He's trying to control what they think. That's our job. Now, we're going to circle back Psaki in that in a moment there, because I believe this is ultimately what the media is freaking out over, the loss of their power. Again, the only reason why the establishment exists is to exist. It exists for its own sake. It exists to accumulate and amass power and affluence for itself. And they're losing it. So we'll circle back Psaki on that in a moment. But for now, let's just enjoy how the legacy media outlets, who did everything they possibly could to boost Kamala's poll numbers, everything they could. Joy. Oh, this is 2008 all over again. Oh, we've never seen it. Oh, Obama wishes he could be like that. We are now watching the same legacy media, the cheerleaders for Kamala, throwing each other under the bus. Roll it.
I feel like I heard more on this network about is Kamala Harris black than I do about, Donald Trump being a fascist.
Well,
am I wrong, Angela?
Honestly, that's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Oh, I like that.
I'm not. Look, I'm a huge fan of yours.
Okay.
But to say that we're sitting around discussing is Kamala Harris black,
I've seen that. I've seen those
that's
roundtable discussions a lot. Now that's
true.
Bullshit, Anderson. For you to say that y'all don't have those conversations.
I've never asked somebody is.
I'm not saying
Kamala
you.
Harris
I said the
black.
network.
He said the network.
I don't think anyone on. I don't think any anchor on this network has been going around saying, "Is she black?"
Y'all have never had
definitely.
We have had. Look, I'm sure we have had, nutty people or people who have strongly held beliefs who I may disagree with, who somewhere on some panel have said something, but I will just speak up for what I do on the show. I do believe it's important to get people different viewpoints as long as they're willing to have a legitimate conversation. What I don't like are surrogates who come out and just spout talking points that they don't even believe, and those are people I tried to eliminate from having ever on the air again.
I think no network has honest conversations about Donald Trump. Nobody's had honest conversations about Donald Trump since 2016. I saw last night they were talking about, the double standard that exists between Donald Trump and the vice president, but it's always a double standard with Trump, whether it's with Hillary, whether it's, against Biden, now with Kamala. We talk about him being a threat to democracy, but we don't treat him like one.
I don't know what you've been watching, but I don't know of any Trump supporters out there or people who like him who are tuning in to me every night to try to get, to be validated in their opinions. I don't know. I don't know. I disagree.
I don't think it's about validating. What you mean, validating the Trump?
Well, you're saying like that we're not that I guess you're saying I'm not discussing all the things he is saying and doing and pointing it out and talking to what John Kelly. I mean.
First off, I'm going to just say it. I am deeply offended by all that mansplaining. Do you notice that the patriarchy that was there, how they marginalized the female voice from that conversation? She couldn't get a word in edgewise. I have just the but yeah, seriously. First off, that was Charlemagne the God, who's the guest there. He just recently interviewed Laura Trump. It was actually a very, very good interview. He can do very good interviews. I don't know. He seems to be politically schizophrenic, because what he was just talking there it was pure political illiteracy. Even Anderson Cooper was like, "What the hell are you even talking about?" He was so taken back. What are you talking? We're the most biased news media against the Republicans and against Trump imaginable. What the heck are you talking about? I mean, well, whatever. So, yes, CNN, the network, the former network of Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, and the current network of Jim Acosta has let Trump off the hook. Yeah, right. I mean, right after that segment, by the way, that serial liar, Hillary Clinton, got on rambling hysterically about Trump reenacting Hitler rallies at Madison Square Garden. That's right. Mr. McDonald's drive-thru is Hitler reincarnate. And Hillary and the host, whatever her name is, with that smug look she always has on her face, that borderline illiterate. She just sat there with this ideological stupor, staring at Hillary as Hillary's spouting out all of these utter absurdities. I mean, preschool banter is more enlightening than what we hear on these shows. But the best part, I have to say, is when Anderson Cooper actually ended up throwing those far left nuts over at MSNBC under the bus. Check it out.
Where, you know what? I got so many, I don't look at comments about myself, but I was looking up some comments about my Grief podcast, and I came across this whole inundation from people who are Harris supporters saying to me online today, like, how dare you, what a betrayal that you would ask her these questions.
No,
and I'm like,
your job.
You misunderstand what my job is. I'm not on MSNBC, and no disrespect. What they do is they're very talented, but I don't watch it. I'm not interested in watching what these overpaid blow-dried anchors think, and I include myself in that overpaid blow-dried, although I don't blow-dry. I am overpaid, but I'm not interested in the anchor's opinion. I'm interested in facts and letting the viewers make up their own mind. So anyway, I'm sorry this devolved into something else, but this is fascinating.
They're turning on each other. I just don't know what else to say. They're absolutely turning on each other. I mean, and you can see it with your own eyes. I mean, make no mistake, this is an unmitigated disaster for the Democrats. It's an absolute disaster. And they're not throwing Fox under the bus, although they could. They're throwing their own left-wing outlets, in this case, a far left-wing outlet, under the bus because none of it is working. This is not supposed to be happening. Trump is supposed to be double digits behind. J6. Joy. And now every one of them have been reduced to the hysterics. The MSNBC far left frothing hysterics that Trump is Hitler. I'm sure you saw, by the way, that article that Mika Brzezinski was referring to, that we're too stupid to, or what she called us idiots. We're too idiotic to understand. It's a piece by Jeffrey Goldberg in The Atlantic accusing Trump of being an admirer of Hitler. If you don't know, Jeffrey Goldberg is a widely recognized serial fabricator. He's the same guy who published the Suckers and Losers hit piece against Trump back in 2020. That he supposedly called Americans who died in war suckers and losers. It was an obvious hack job meant to hurt Trump politically with the working class, since they inordinately sign up for the military. This is what people like Jeffrey Goldberg do. They exist to protect the regime. Our legacy media no longer exists to speak truth to power. They are the power. And they use their power to fabricate truth. And then they call it facts. And then to back that up, they have, quote, fact checkers. And what do you know? These truths, these so-called facts, always benefit and defend the establishment. So Goldberg publishes this piece. Kamala stages that disastrous impromptu press conference denouncing Trump as Hitler incarnate, which again, I mean, it was all, make sure you recognize what the Atlantic did, and then the press conference shortly thereafter was all coordinated. It was all choreographed. The media publishes a piece that was most likely concocted by the Kamala campaign. And then after the piece is published, they run out and morally denounce their political opponent based on the very hit piece that they themselves, the campaign, concocted. And we saw this explicitly in 2016 with the Hillary Clinton initiated Russian collusion hoax, right? A couple of years back, Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign manager, a fellow by the name of Roger Mook, testified before a grand jury and openly admitted, we have the transcripts, I've read them. He openly admitted that Hillary Clinton personally approved a plan to spread the lie that Trump was colluding with Russia to the media, which they were all too gleefully, they were all too happy to do, and too happy to report. And then Hillary would use that media coverage to pounce on Trump. So that's the corrupt Democrat legacy media back to Democrat propaganda loop. Hillary Clinton, according to her own campaign manager's testimony, along with her team, deliberately pushed a fabricated Russian collusion hoax that her own campaign concocted to the legacy media. And then after the lies were gleefully published by the legacy media, Hillary tweeted out driveling lies like this, quote, computer scientists have apparently uncovered a covert server linking the Trump organization to a Russian-based bank. She knew that was a lie. She knew that. She knew she was spreading blatant, concocted lies when she tweeted that out. Lies her own campaign fabricated. So Kamala's not doing anything different from what Hillary did back in 2016, or what Jeffrey Goldberg, the serial fabricator for The Atlantic, did for Biden back in 2020 with the suckers and losers hit piece against Trump that Biden constantly keeps going back to. You're the sucker and loser. They're not. They're heroes. You're the sucker and loser. Where's my meds? Well, guess what? It's backfiring. This Trump is Hitler nonsense is backfiring for the very nonsense that it is. Wait until you see this. You're going to absolutely love it. But first, gang, you've got to stop putting off what you know you need to do. I mean, if you have not yet secured the deed to your home as of yet, you've got to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. I was shocked when I found out how easy it is to access the deed to my house, and not just access it, but actually change it. The deed to your home is the only document that proves you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online. And so criminals are free to find your deed, forge your signature, refile as the new owner of your home, take out tons of loans using your home's equity, and then stick you with all the debt. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in. Gang, they're absolutely amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code Turley Talks, and then they've got this wonderful offer. All you have to do is enter your address for a no-obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. It's a $100 value, absolutely and totally free with my promo code Turley Talks. So no excuses. Don't wait for the worst to happen. Only regret you didn't do something when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. All right. Once again, we have the great Mark Halperin, formerly of MSNBC. Now he's great. I guess now he's no longer part of MSNBC, can be honest now, hosting a panel of undecided voters in Pennsylvania. Take a look at what they had to say.
I can't. I think part of the reason why I'm being pushed towards Trump so strongly is that I find that the Democrats and the left just keep going straight to Hitler all of the time with everything. Like it, and if it's not the left pushing Hitler, it's the right pushing Stalin. So it's like we're fighting World War II every single day for every single election. So it's so exhausting. I think it just detracts from, it pushes me away from their position, and it's so hyperbolic that it makes it impossible to have good discussions, and I think it ruins the discourse.
Does anybody think it's valuable or something you want to hear from the vice president? Anybody? Raise your hand if you think this is something that's important for her to be talking about. Anybody?
Bueller. Yeah, anybody? I mean, obviously, no one is being persuaded by this nonsense. We talked about this yesterday in another video as to why that is. But when all said and done, Trump is Hitler is the biggest loser strategy imaginable. And the fact that Kamala's incompetence is being echoed by The Atlantic just goes to show how far this incompetence virus has spread in the establishment. In fact, you're going to love this. Ready for this? The blowback against this Trump is Hitler strategy is so huge. It is so formidable, especially against the serial fabricating tabloid trash called The Atlantic, that The Atlantic actually had to publish a piece yesterday with the headline, The Atlantic did not publish an article with the headline, Trump is literally Hitler. We didn't do that. Stop saying we did. They were upset. They were upset that a doctored image of their hit piece against Trump that I just showed you, the one where, we idiots are too dumb to understand, according to Mika, right? That somebody doctored that hit piece and titled it Trump is literally Hitler, and it went viral. It went absolutely viral all over social media. And the serial fabricators over at The Atlantic are so livid over that they actually published a piece complaining, we didn't say that. And here's the key. They published that piece without even giving a moment's reflection as to why so many people would believe they'd publish a piece like that. They don't even stop for a second to think about why so many people would find it perfectly plausible that the left-wing activists disguised as journalists over at The Atlantic would publish a piece with that headline that Trump is literally Hitler. Could it possibly be because of headlines like this? If you're listening by way of our 20 million podcast downloads, the headline from The Atlantic just from last week, Trump is speaking like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. Gang, that is my favorite all-time title ever. 1 week, Trump is Hitler. The other week, Trump is Stalin. The other week, Trump is Mussolini. And then finally, 2 weeks from the election, Trump is Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini all in one. So after all that, after that repeatedly comparing Trump to Hitler, this pathetic trash tabloid called The Atlantic, it doesn't even deserve to be toilet paper, that deliberately publishes Democrat fabricated opposition research, is complaining, at least it appears, I got to qualify that, at least it appears, is complaining that people think that they're comparing Trump to Hitler is comparing Trump to Hitler. Again, note the pattern too here. Note the pattern. This is always 100% the pattern of the establishment. It's all your fault. You're to blame. You're the idiots. You're the spreader of disinformation, not us. No, not we. Well, obviously, as you could see from that panel of undecideds in Pennsylvania, if they're representative of the norm, it's all backfiring. It's all backfiring on the legacy media. And it's all backfiring precisely because of the rise of the network society that we talk so much about this channel, so much about on this channel, because it is so important to understand the new civilization we are finding ourselves in the midst of, this rising new civilization. What the dinosaurs in the legacy media simply don't quite recognize is that the legacy media belongs to an old era, an era known as mass society. And the era of mass society is the era of, big cities in the 19th and 20th century, early 20th century in particular. That's why all the legacy media outlets are associated with big cities in New York Times, Washington Post, Chicago Tribune, Philadelphia Inquirer, LA Times. That's why ABC, NBC, CBS, they all have their headquarters in Manhattan. This is the era of mass society, the society of the Industrial Revolution that concentrated power and population in our urban centers. And in that society, we were totally dependent on media organizations for learning what's going on in the world, whether it was through newspapers, radio, television network, cable, it didn't matter. We were largely dependent on corporate media outlets that basically had a de facto monopoly on information dissemination. Today, now, with the rise of the internet, the world is living in what's called a network society. And that dependence has been completely broken. We now have instant access to information completely independent of the legacy media. Let me say it again, because I think that's so essential for us to understand the time we're living in, the situation we find ourselves. Because of the network society, because of our shared hyperconnectivity, we now have instant access to digital information completely independent of the legacy media. They could drop off the planet and we would never know. In other words, information has escaped the confines of the corporate media outlets, and it now bypasses the legacy media in a manner comparable to the way text messaging and email bypasses the post office. We saw this with the shooting of President Trump. The whole world literally ignored the legacy media and went straight to X, or Twitter, X, for second-by-second instantaneous updates. I know I did. The legacy media was caught completely flat-footed. While CNN was telling us that Trump fell, or that Trump was removed from the stage because loud popping sounds. Well, these legacy media outlets were literally caught frozen in time. We were getting literally second-by-second updates through the new media, the media of the network society. And what this all ultimately means, and what's so fatal to the legacy media outlets like MSNBC and The Atlantic, is that we are now in the position to fact check them. That's why they've lost. That's why this is over. We are now in the position to fact check the self-anointed fact checkers. This is what so many in the legacy media they simply refuse to come to terms with. It hasn't hit them yet. We are all now, because of our instant access to the same information that anyone in the legacy media would have access to, we are now in a position to fact check the self-anointed fact checkers. And they are consistently caught in their out and out blatant lies. And that's why trust and confidence in the legacy media is at an all-time low. This just came out last week. The latest Gallup poll just came out, shows the media confidence today is at its lowest point ever, as it should be. And so that's why it's so significant for what's happening today. What's going to happen today, later on? Trump is going to be on whose show? Good old Joe Rogan. Trump is doing it, man. He's appearing on Joe Rogan. I think Glenn Beck had an excellent analysis of this. He's arguing that Joe Rogan's Trump interview could actually finally and decisively end the mainstream media's monopoly on campaign coverage. It's been if it has a big enough effect on the polls, this will be the last election with CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS as the gatekeepers. If this gets the eyeballs that everyone thinks it's about to get the eyeballs, you remember when Tucker first came back after he left or he was fired from Fox, we didn't hear from him, and then all of a sudden he came back and he gave, he said, I'm back and here's my plans. And what is it, like 200 million people watch or something like, it was just crazy number. The interviews with Trump, I mean, just imagine this thing blowing up on Twitter. If this thing gets the eyes and the influence that it has the potential of doing, this may indeed be the last election with the legacy media as the gatekeepers. Welcome to the era of independent media. And I think Beck is absolutely right. Although Tucker thought it was J13. Tucker made the argument some weeks back that J13, the day of the assassination attempt against Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, that was the day the legacy media's era officially came to an end. They simply could not compete. They couldn't even come close to competing with the second-by-second coverage from a platform like X that could provide from the very people on the ground immediately tweeting out what was happening so that we were all right there with them second by second. But I think Glenn Beck is taking his analysis to the next level. He's pointing out that this might indeed very possibly be the last election with the legacy media as the gatekeepers of the election. Again, bringing it all back, Rich Baris has been saying this for months. I agree. I've been saying it. The one misstep for Trump in this election is that he capitulated to the legacy media with the debates. Well, it wasn't a misstep when it came to Biden in June. That's for sure. Biden certainly stepped in it back in June. But the fact that Trump agreed to a debate hosted by ABC, who then turned around and ambushed him, I mean, so obviously tag teamed against him. I mean, that's it. Even J.D. Vance had to deal with that fact-checking absolute nonsense. That's it. I think that was the last straw. Republicans, independent voters, we will never trust the legacy media ever again to be gatekeepers and officiate an election. And this interview with Rogan may indeed drive the decisive stake through the heart of the legacy media's gatekeeping status. With all the podcasts that Trump has been doing, with all the town halls he's been doing at the rallies, I think we may indeed be seeing the first independent media-driven election already here in 2024. So again, gang, to wrap it all up, this is not over. Anything can happen. But it is our job to rise to this occasion and to do everything we possibly can to make sure that no matter what happens on November 5th, it does not happen as they planned. Over to you. Let's see what questions you have. I ran long today. Wow. Sorry, guys. Normally I try to wrap it up in 40 minutes or so. But we're on fire. This is amazing stuff. I do have an interview with Scott Pressler at 12:30. So I have a hard stop at 12:30 or around that, a little bit earlier, 12:25 or so. So let's get those questions in. What questions do we have? Again, if you want to sign up, because YouTube has demonetized us, if you want to ask me your questions, just go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Fight.turleytalks.com/join. Sign up for any level of support that you want, and you can ask me your question. There it is, fight.turleytalks.com/join. Sign up for any level you want, and you're going to be on a censorship-free platform of 5,000 other members. We've got a 5,000-member Courageous Conservative Club. You'll love it. So come on over. All right, let's do it. Let's dive in. Johnny, it's still a little hard to understand the Electoral College. I know Trump has to win either 270 or 300 to win the election. No, it's 270, but I'm not. But I'm told even if he has Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, and North Carolina, it won't matter if he doesn't win either Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. Can you tell me what's so special about those three states that a presidential candidate has to win? Yeah. So Johnny, it's just it's a math issue. Bottom line. So if he wins, for example, if he keeps all the states he won in 2020. And he wins Arizona and Georgia, and then if he wins Nevada, I think he's just like two 2 or so points away, maybe even 1 point away from the magic 270. You need 270 electoral votes to win. Both candidates can tie at 269, but they can't tie at 270. So that's it's just a math issue. The reason why we always say he came within 40,000 votes of winning 2020 is he lost, Arizona by 10,000 votes. He lost Georgia by 10,000. He lost Wisconsin by 20,000. Had he won those 3 states, he would have won the Electoral College with just over 270 votes. So it's just a math issue. ROT Corp. Dr. Turley, saw your interview with Dan Ryder yesterday. I mentioned it before, and I mentioned it again. I hope you talked to Dan about the cryptocurrency XRP Ripple. Heard good things about it and other cryptos like XLM, XDC, and HBAR in the coming months. Disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, investor in risk. ROT, definitely. Hook up with us the next time I talk with Dan, and I want to get you to talk with it because it sounds like you guys could hit it off. I mean, he's up on all the latest cryptos, so I would love to see how you guys chat and knock sparks back and forth. That's one of the benefits of being a member of our Courageous Conservative Club. Awesome, RT. Terry, have you heard the owner of the LA Times wanted its editorial board to conduct a dispassionate analysis of policies Trump and Harris as part of Biden, but in place while in office, and the promises they are now making, and the board refused? Dr. Pat Soon-Shong, the owner, said that. Do you believe him? That's a good question. I don't know, Terry. I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it. Wokeness is a virus. It really is. I talked about bio-Leninism yesterday. And the notion of bio-Leninism is that unlike ideological Leninism that uses ideological fidelity as the basis for your being promoted up the ranks in a Marxist system, bio-Leninism uses your identity. It uses your resemblance to victim identities as the basis for your promotion up the ranks. And inevitably, bio-Leninism ends up putting people in positions of power that shouldn't be there. They just, because competence is not the screening process for the promotion. So you end up with a system with incredibly incompetent people at the top. We could name a dozen names right now that come to. I know I'm thinking of a few, particularly in government. So I think that may be what's happening there. I don't know, though. Franz, with hope and vibes on the back burner. Hope and vibes on the back burner as the Harris campaign looks to be a side of fries short of a Happy Meal. You guys are so freaking funny. I'm going to do a book of just some of these comments. Your prose are wonderful. Should Trump focus on the battleground states or look to pick up Virginia and New Mexico? So I think it's both and. That's what they're doing. I think it's both and. So, he was just in Georgia. He was just in Arizona. So I think he'll be in Madison Square Garden, which is that's just being mean at this point. That's just doing cartwheels. So I think it's both. They don't want to take anything for granted, and that's good. I think they're right on that. So they're going to keep hitting Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. They're going to keep hitting Georgia. Arizona looks like it's pretty wrapped up. Arizona looks like it's gone. I mean, the voter registration lead and the early voting lead among Republicans is so dominant. It's going to be hard. I don't know how the Democrats. I mean, you would need this again. The one choke point here is you would need a mass defection among Republicans to the Democrats. You need all these Liz Cheney voters, right? You need all these Nikki Haley kind of like voters. You need this mass defection. I'm Republican. I'm voting Republican. We've got the most votes, but 30% of us voted for Kamala. That's what they're saying. The Kamala campaign say, "Oh, that's happening." They don't know. Of course, they don't know. But that doesn't fit with the voter. Doesn't fit with the polls. Doesn't fit with the voter registration advantage. The voter registration advantage and the early voting seem to be going hand in hand. And the key there, the reason why that's so important, is because we just have more troops than they do. So right now, like in Arizona, Democrats are behind in the vote, but more Democrats have already voted. Democrats are behind in the vote, but they've also exhausted more of their vote because there's less Democrats, because Republicans, because of the ongoing efforts of people like Scott Presler in Pennsylvania and Turning Point in Arizona, Republicans have that many more voters. So it's, again, in terms of a war of attrition, we just have more soldiers when all's said and done. We have hundreds of thousands. I think it's 250,000, 300,000 voter registration advantage. So we're ahead of the Democrats right now. We're seeing the same thing, something comparable in Nevada. We don't have as much of the voted, but we don't have, they have, I think, a 20,000 vote advantage. I take that back in Nevada. So technically they would have more reserves there if they needed them all. But particularly in Arizona, particularly in Georgia, particularly in North Carolina, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing Republicans outvoting the Democrats. So the Democrats are behind in the early voting, and yet they've exhausted more of their voters. We have more reserves, more gas in the tank, as it were. And it's just bad news for them. There's just no way around it. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, some election analysts are saying not only is Trump winning all the swing states, but also winning Virginia, New Mexico, Minnesota, and New Hampshire. Your thought? So I'm also going to be interviewing Seth Keshel. You got some of you guys may know Seth and his Substack. Captain, was it Captain Seth or Captain Keshel? But Captain K, I think it is. And he thinks they're the new swing states. That's his argument. His election analysis is mind blowing. I think we'll have it up this weekend. I'm interviewing him later on today at 2:00. So I think we should have it up for you over, probably Saturday or even Sunday. I mean, we're going to be posting as much as we can just leading up to November 5th. Again, leave no doubt, right? We want to leave it all out on the field. That's his argument. Based on his analysis right now, as we speak, Trump has all the swing states wrapped up based on his analysis. So, for example, voter registration, because in Pennsylvania, thank you, Scott Presler. I got to keep my eye on that time, because Pennsylvania has cut voter registration, the Democrat voter registration, in half, more than in half. They're now under 300,000 in terms of voter registration. I think they were up near 700,000 or so in 2020. They were up closer to 1 million in 2016, and Trump still won because a lot of Pennsylvania Democrats are old school blue collar Democrats that have swung over and are voting Trump. Because the voter registration advantage for the Democrats has been cut in half, were Trump to get the same vote to the right of that voter registration total as he got in 2020, he would win by over 200,000 votes. So in 2020, let's make it easy. Democrats had a 500,000 voter registration advantage. Biden won by 80,000 votes. So therefore, the vote was 420,000 votes to the right of the Democrat voter registration advantage. Now that we've shrunk that to under 300,000, if Trump gets that 420,000 vote to the right again, like it looks like he will, and then some, it's over. He's won by over 100,000 votes. So, well, more like by 200,000. So that's what's fascinating here. Even if we use 2020 norms, Trump is going to take this. So that's where Seth Keshel is saying, no, the new swing states are exactly what you're saying, Rock Dog. The new swing states are Virginia, they're New Mexico, they're New Hampshire, they're Maine, it's Minnesota. Those are the new swing states. Forget the old swing states. Those are solid red right now. So I'll find out more today, but we'll see. We're going to count down. Remember, anything can happen, but whatever does happen, we're not going to let it happen the way they want, the way they planned. That's key. Thanks, Rock Dog. Rhodes, prepare. Rhodes, prepare. Are the numbers we're being given of representative Democrats actual vote counts, or just this, how many representative Democrats have voted, as I thought votes couldn't be counted until election day? That's right. No. Oh, that's all you're getting. You're getting either requests for, you're getting three things. You're getting either requests for ballots, for mail-in ballots. So like in Pennsylvania, there might be like 800,000 requests for ballots from, say, Democrats. Then you get the number of returned ballots. 400,000 have been returned. 400,000 are still outstanding. And then you're getting early vote in-person numbers, in-person early vote numbers. And all they're doing, not all states do this, like Wisconsin and Michigan, as I understand it, they don't keep track of the party. They're not partisan trackers. But Arizona, Nevada, I don't think, Georgia doesn't either, if I recall. I'm trying to remember. Virginia, Pennsylvania, they keep track of how many registered Republicans, how many registered Democrats, how many registered independents are voting, but they don't know how they voted. So that's all. So that is the one, again, that's the one choke point in this modeling, this forecasting. Maybe half the Republicans are voting for Kamala. But then we would see that in the polls, you see. So the polls become a cross-reference there. We would see that in the voter registration. We'd see something like that, but we're not. What we're seeing is Trump is polling stronger than he's ever polled, ever, in 2020 or 2016. And voter registration trends and voter identification, Gallup's voter ID survey, is trending Republican like we've never seen. It's just absolutely stunning. So you put those two together, and then you see outstanding, unprecedented vote leads for early voting for Republicans. Now you know why Mika is crying. Now you know. So again, could happen. Like I said, anything could happen. I'm always going to be honest with you. I'm never going to get your hopes up only to dash them on election night. We're fighting. We're going in and we are fighting. You got to know we're about to hit and are hitting a serious opponent. This opponent is fighting for its life. But we've got to make sure that whatever they have planned does not happen as planned. Patriot Jules, Steve, I'm older than you, but research the Symbionese Liberation Army with Black Lives Matter. They have similar symbol, both rooted with Black Panthers. Began in Berkeley. Harris is a name in the originators. Kamala donating money for BLM. Yep, well, she's certainly bailing them out. Maya married to Obama's U.S. Attorney Tony West. Maya was Hillary's lawyer. Email son researched effective false information ramification. What the hell? Yeah, I'm with you, Patriot Jewel. No, they're all. I have no doubt about that. They're all crooked. We are living under a regime, and that's Jack Posobiec's argument. We're living under a communist revolution, plain and simple. And we're going to take it back. Rock Corp. Dr. Turley, you talked about this a little bit, but what's the situation more reliably blue states that have been shifting towards swing? What's happening in states like New Jersey, New Mexico, and Colorado? So all I know there is that their margins are getting dangerously low. And for me, I look at those low margins to see what they mean for states that are definitely in play. So a low margin, for example, in New York, where Kamala, now again, New York is a state that Biden won by 23 points in 2020. Kamala will be lucky if she gets half that. She's looking at 11 points, 10, 11 point. Maybe she'll get 12 as a victory. Now, what does that mean? Well, what that means is if the margins have shrunk by half in New York, how much more are they in trouble in eastern Pennsylvania that tends to be a New York sleepover, counties like Bucks County. So if we're seeing, and again, when you look at between 2016, 2020 in Pennsylvania, as I understand, there wasn't a lot of change. Again, I think Barnes and Baris were talking about this. There wasn't a lot of change in Western and Central Pennsylvania. Western and Central Pennsylvania basically voted the same between 2016, 2020. The change happened in Eastern Pennsylvania, in Scranton, right? Good old Scranton Joe, right? The change happened in Scranton. The change happened in Bucks County. The change happened in Eastern, the more New York influenced Pennsylvania. That's where Joe picked up more or less the bulk of his 80,000 votes. So if if those 80,000 votes came with a 23-point margin in New York, what's coming with an 11-point margin? That's for me, that's key. That's what I do. That's how I utilize these kind of shifting to swing status. And then Seth Keshel, who I'll be interviewing, he's actually doing the data crunching to see the extent to which they are really viable swing states. And I'll be asking him about that today. Neil, will Trump pull all the Senate and House races so that we have a majority in both houses? Go Kari Lake. Amen. Go to Kari. Go to Kari. Amen. Go Kari Lake and go to Kari Lake to her website and help her out. Absolutely. See Bill Clinton. Freaking Bill Clinton. Oh, she's hot. Oh, what did she say? I didn't think I was his type. He likes interns. So yeah. So it just comes down to how big the margins are for his victory. If Trump is looking at a 5-point margin in Arizona, I don't see how Gallego, is that how he's saying? I don't see how he pulls it off. We don't, because we just don't. We tend not to vote split ticket. We just don't. It is possible. You might get a majority going in there going, all right, I'm voting Trump, but I want somebody to, I want somebody to keep him in check or something. So here goes Gallego, and here goes Bob Casey. There is a chance of that, but generally speaking, if Trump wins in a blowout, all the down ticket, everyone benefits. Everyone. It's very rare for him to win and nobody else benefit. So yeah, it looks like if it continues to look the way it does, I think Kari has a great chance. Paul, we have freedom of the press in this country, as we should, but that should not be a license to lie and manipulate. Can't something be done once Trump is back in office? So, Paul, that's that's something that's getting talked about. What are the legal recourses for these obvious these hit pieces from the legacy media who have licenses, right? Trump has filed a complaint that 60 Minutes at CBS should have its license revoked because they refused to give to the American people the unedited transcript, the unedited film of Kamala. Again, it must have been a disaster. And they actually changed her answer to make it a better answer for her in one of the questions. It's absurd. It's insane. So we'll have to see. I'm not a lawyer, but I know legal minds are thinking about how do we address, to me, the greatest thing about a Trump 2.0 is we have a chance to fundamentally, remember, this is like 2008 all over again, but in the right way. We had a chance to fundamentally change our nation. We have the chance to fundamentally change the course of our nation. We have a chance to fundamentally change the fundamental institutions that structured our nation, have all rotted out with this wokeness. And I think part of that is going to be holding the legacy media that has been so blatantly lying to the American people for so long accountable. So we'll have to see how they do it. I don't know. Ooh, I'm getting down to the wire. Let's just do a couple of more here again. Fastalon, I find myself feeling calmer as we draw closer to Election Day. God bless you. Good. I feel myself feeling that everything the Demeroids have tried has failed. No reason to believe that will change now. We just push forward. Am I odd? You basically summed up my live stream today, Fastalon. You basically summed it up. Yes, they are going to plan something. They already have. Yes, they're going to try to interfere in the election. They already have. Yes, they're going to plan something. Yes. It's our job to make sure that what we have been seeing these last 2.5 years, these last 4 years, do not go according to their plan. They've got something planned, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen according to their plans. Let's watch it backlash gloriously. So I'm with you. That's it. That's exactly how I feel, Fastalon. All right, one more. Let's try one more, and then I do have to go, guys. Sorry. I got Scott. You guys got something for me? It's stuck. He's stuck. Oh, I'm sorry. It changed, and I didn't even know it. Browning Man, Dr. Sue, do you think that Nancy Pelosi is a real mastermind J6 security breach? That's certainly what Trump is saying. That's certainly what a lot of evidence is saying, that Trump did request a significant amount of more security. He was concerned it might have got, could possibly get out of hand. So he wanted plenty of security, and Pelosi said no. She said no. And we're finding, how is it? Jack Posobiec calls it in his book, intentional negligence. We're finding that this intentional negligence is a key characteristic even of Secret Service protection and the like. It is a form of it is a form of sabotage. There's no question about that. It is a form. This neglect is a kind of guilt, as it were. If you intentionally neglected a puppy in your car when you locked up the car in a hot day and went in and the puppy died, you're responsible for that. So I think that's exactly what we're saying. Gang, I gotta go. I gotta go and talk to Scott. Check out that interview. It'll probably be up later on today. And the latest of what's going on the front lines in Pennsylvania. You are not going to want to miss it. And also check out my interview with Seth Keshel, one of the best, absolutely best data analysts out there with regard to election forecasts. You're going to love it. Also go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Make sure you join up, gang. Fellowship of 5,000 Patriots. What can I say? YouTube demonetized us, and it doesn't bother us. We could keep going precisely because of you guys, precisely because of Courageous Conservative Club members that enable us to weather that kind of financial hit. And we can just keep going and keep delivering for you the best election coverage out there. I love you all. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay strong. Let's do this.